All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. I want to thank you all again so much for joining us. This is, I think, we're going into our second year of these webinars, so we're pretty excited that we're bringing you really great content. And today we have a guest speaker, Clint Brown. He's somebody who I've known for a while now, and he is a certified financial planner, and he's got a lot of titles past his name. He has been in the industry for a very long time, and his financial service firm focuses on working with businesses and exploring different business strategies with business owners and their employees. And just finding some different ways of taking advantage of different vehicles, which he'll get into. And by the way, I'm not very good at these intros, so I apologize up front. I'm pretty terrible at it, actually. But even cooler is Clinton has authored two books, and I'm sure he will be happy to talk about those two books as well. I actually read one, and it's just so great. He really explains things well, and to a level that I think even I can understand, and I'm not good with this stuff, so it was really good. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and give the time. Oh wait, one more thing, a little housekeeping. If you're not speaking, please keep yourself on mute. I will let Clinton decide whether or not he wants to take questions during his presentation, or if he'll wait till the end. But again, I have the chat box up. I will be monitoring that as well. So now, without further ado, Clinton, you are on.
Thanks, Ashley. That was a great introduction. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. I really enjoy what I do. It's a passion of mine, where I love to look at different scenarios that business owners may have and go to the drawing board and figure out how to take all their goals mixed in with all of their desires financially, and come up with a way to do it, taking advantage of tax laws, investment options, insurance pieces, and just kind of helping them figure it all out full circle. And so are you able to see my screen, Ashley?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. So you already went through this stuff. I love what I do. I love to learn and study and make sure I'm up to speed on the latest and greatest. And really enjoy this industry that I lucked into jumping into. I did get my degree in finance, which was something that I thought I would like, but now 20 years into it, I'm very happy that it happened. So I was asked to talk about two things. One is, each of you have employees that have needs financially that you as an employer contribute to by paying them a salary or paying them hourly. But each of them have different scenarios. They could be married, single, have children, not have children, whatever the case may be. And each of them have their own financial situation. And as an employer, it's very tough for you to try to identify each and every situation and check in with them to make sure that they're handling things properly, from budgeting all the way to saving to debt reduction to whatever it might be. So that's one area. And the second area is, as a business owner, how can you use this tool, which is your business, and take that tool and leverage it to best serve you as a business owner, you and your family financially. How can you do that with tax laws and other options that are out there? So today's presentation is a skim. That word I'm using on purpose, because when you're skimming over all these different topics, in other words, you're not going into deep detail, that's what's going to happen today. There are so many different ways and directions that each of these can go, that each thing we touch on really could take a full hour. And so if any of you have interest in having me back to talk in more detail about one particular thing, that's fine. And Ashley, to answer your question, during the presentation, I don't mind being interrupted, Ashley. It's probably nice to have a breakup of voice anyway. So if people have questions or texting them to you, just let me know, because all I can see is my screen. So when you're talking about a business owner, you can really split it up into 4 different groups. You have you, if we're looking at the top left there, that's you, the business owner. You're honing in on the business growth and making sure it survives and everything else. At some point along the line, you're going to be looking at retirement and stepping back. You have your family. Your family can be comprised of a spouse, children, could be comprised of animals, whatever it might be. You have a family, and there's estate planning concerns there, meaning if you passed away or became disabled or something happened to you as the business owner, how does that impact your family? You also have your employees who are looking for some sort of a surety from you that they're in the right spot, and you want to keep their eyes looking at you as a business, as opposed to having their eyes look elsewhere for something that they may feel could be a better opportunity. In addition, if you are in a business partnership or you have a particular employee that really, really carries the load in many ways, you have key employee concerns, and you also have how are you going to exit the business and get value while you're exiting that business, and be able to take that value and have it go toward your retirement or go toward your family or whatever it might be. So this circle is very simple. It's a great way to look at it from a 30,000 foot level, but truth be told, all the details within it are quite complex and confusing, which is why we're here, is to help simplify it for you. And so as you're looking at as we work with clients, we like to understand what the client's goals are. That's business goals and that's personal goals on the financial side of your life. We have significant number of scenarios that could pop up in your life. Things change as life goes on. You may have particular strong moral beliefs that you want to implement in your financial side of your life. There's just a lot of things to consider. And so we touch on the what and the why of your money side, and then of course dig into the how. The how is the interesting part for us. This is what we get excited about, but what most people don't want to deal with. It's very intimidating, and also sounds boring and sounds like something you don't want to spend time on. Yet it's imperative that you do spend time on it. So the how component, as you can see, is significant. There are so many different strategies out there that you could use. It really is going to come down to what your mission, vision, values, your goals are on the financial side of your life. When we understand all that, we can then help you identify the strategies, the tactics, and the tools available to make it work. And so in this context, as we work and meet with people, we like to see the circular fashion. The message here is that your life is consistently going through a discovery, needing to make decisions, tracking results, and having confidence that you're on the right track. And this particular process, the planning horizon, we go into great detail with our clients so they understand that this planning horizon is repetitive, happens for each tiny thing from buying a car to opening a new office for your business. The planning horizon applies to all that. So when it comes to your employees, as an employer, you're looking for easy ways to save, yet the employee needs to find the money to save as well. And one thing that I will touch on, any of you that are on this call and you would like a copy of a book I wrote called Financially Sound, this really touches on the gamut of what you need to have implemented in order to create kind of a piece in your financial world. And so we'll be happy to mail you participants on the call a copy of this. Also, if you want it for your employees or want to provide it to them as a supplement to the different things you offer, it's on Amazon, available there. One thing that you should know for your employees' sake, and even this applies to some business owners, is that how much savings do people have on hand? If you take the general public of the United States and look at their cash savings, 28% of our country has less than $100 in savings. And you can see that between 100 and 250, only 8%, 250 to 251, about 6%, and you can run along the lines. Greater than 25,000, 12% of our country has that. So there's a significant problem, you could say, where people are not saving, they're simply spending what they make. And being broke is normal, where 70% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck. And 24% of what they make goes to debt. And that debt is something we'll talk about in a minute. And 64% cannot cover an emergency if it's over $1,000. So your employees are staring these type of problems in the face. And just so you know, as your business, when you have employees that are struggling financially, it can decrease productivity as much as 20 hours a month. If you could imagine, if they have collectors coming after them, and they're getting calls 5 times an hour while they're trying to work for you, you can imagine the distraction there. 1 in 3 employees are hoping to find a new job with a new employer this year. That's something to keep in mind. And 30% of workers will put off medical treatment because of the cost. They'll say, I'm not going to do it. It's too expensive. So their health is impacted by it. In the world of retirement plans, only 52% of Americans, 52% have less than $10,000 in their retirement account. The average contribution is about 5.5% of their income. And once people start putting money into their retirement plan, about 21% will start to borrow from it because they feel like they need to get to the money. And so, you know, the symptoms of your employees will be low account balances, low contribution rates, and high loans. And the reason and the problems are they have no budget, no plan. They have consumer debt, which is credit cards and things of that sort, and a lack of emergency savings. And so one thing that some people say is, well, I'm not going to save because there's nothing out there I can invest it in to have it grow aggressively, or I don't have enough money to put away and save, because you need these large amounts of money to be put away in order to create a legitimate plan out there. Well, we're here to tell you that 74% of the success of any savings program is simply saving, putting the money away and putting it somewhere where it can be saved. 2% of its success actually has to do with the quality of the asset it's in. A lot of people fight and claw over which fund or which stock is better than the other. Only 2% of the success is applied to that. Where 20% of the success is about asset allocation. How are you spreading your money out amongst what investments? And so it's important to know that just starting to save, even if it's as low as $5, $10 a month, your employees will have significant impacts on their long-term goals. The average American household will make about $2 million in a lifetime. And at age 65, the average American has about 60 grand there for their retirement needs. As you guys know, Social Security is a key component to a retirement plan for most people. For some, it's the only retirement plan they have. And this is an example of that concern. $60,000, even if you were just to try to live off of the interest of, you know, maybe 5%, that's about $3,000 per year or $250 per month that $60,000 can bring. So $60,000 in funds at retirement, although helpful, will definitely not handle most people's loss of employment during their retirement. So now the trick is helping the employees to find the money. If you go to an employee and say, hey, you need to start saving 15%, or, you know, all hell's breaking loose in 20 years? The answer is always going to be no in that case, because they're worried about, hey, I need to be able to, pay for Netflix or pay for my iPhone and its service, and I need to be able to eat out twice a week or whatever it might be. They have these lifestyle needs now that if they're threatened, it's going to be a no. One thing to know is that the average household debt is $250,000. And so if you look at somebody's overall income coming in, the average lifestyle is 3% going to savings, 23% handling lifestyle. Lifestyle includes, utilities and things like that. 34% of the average American's household's income is going to interest. In other words, they're paying debtors interest. 40% of income goes to taxes. That's not just income tax of federal and state. That's sales tax, gas tax, real estate tax, all the taxes that exist out there. The average is about 40% of people's income is going to that. So a solution that you could offer to your employees is a Dave Ramsey program. Many of you have heard of him. He's quite famous for his ability to get down to the nitty-gritty of budgeting. But there is a Dave Ramsey program where he's kind of built out 5 baby steps, where the first step is people get $1,000 in emergency fund. Even if they have to sell a motorcycle or do something, they have to get $1,000 of emergency fund. Step 2 is to get out of debt. Once you get out of debt and those payments are gone, and you do that through a variety of strategies, but the most popular is a snowballing strategy. Meaning you pay off one card that was $200 a month. You take that same $200 that you were applying to the previous card and apply that to the next credit card. Then once you're out of debt, build a true emergency fund. And then once you have the emergency fund, go ahead and sock away 15% of whatever you make into retirement. And once you have that done and you have excess, you can continue to build wealth, or you can give back through nonprofits, charities, churches, whatever it might be. And so this Ramsey Solutions option exists for employers to offer to their employees, and it's called a Smart Dollar program. Other tools that you can offer to employees is for planning and organizing. If they're just unsure of where everything's at and how to budget and all of that, you have Mint. Mint is a free service that allows people to organize their financial world. Another organizing tool is called Personal Capital. That exists as well. For investing, you have people who say, I can't, this is once again above and beyond maybe a 401k or what an employer is offering on their personal level. They can do investing into smart portfolios, Personal Capital, again, Betterment, Robinhood. These are all programs where you put $10 in and they're going to take that $10 and invest it according to your risk tolerance. And so there are tools out there that you can offer to your employees, or at least share the information that they exist, and your employees could then proactively go out and implement that. So how can you make it easy to save for these employees? This is where it starts to get quite complicated. So as I mentioned, I'm going to skim through these because each of these can have its own time spent on it. But you have employer-sponsored plans. You have defined contribution plans. Many of you would recognize SEPs, Simples, individual 401ks, 401k plans, profit-sharing plans. Then you have the next level of defined benefit. I'll call this kind of the mother lode of retirement saving. The defined benefit plan is where you can sock away hundreds of thousands a year into it, which helps with taxes, but also speeds up your retirement savings. And then you do have a state-sponsored plan called CASL Savers, and we're going to touch on that a little bit more as we go. In a defined contribution plan, those are the most famous, most well-known. Those are the 401ks and the SEPs and the Simples. Basically, it's exactly what it's named. You are defining the contribution, and your contribution might be $10,000 a year or $5,000 a year. And there's no law that tells you have to do more or less. In fact, you could have a year go by where you do zero. So each year you get to define your contribution to that plan. Most employers, when they're implementing retirement plans, go with the defined contribution because of its flexibility. Defined benefit, you're defining your benefit in the future. So when you're 65 years old, what is that benefit? And let's just imagine the benefit is 60% of your pay. Once you know that that benefit is 60% of your pay and the other employees' pay, now the actuaries work backward one-on-one. So if you have a 50-year-old who is going to get 60% of their pay in 15 years, the amount saved for that 50-year-old is going to be very different than the amount needed to be saved for the 20-year-old who has 45 years for that money to be saved. So the defined benefit plan, you're literally defining the benefit at age 65, and then how much goes into each account is dependent on their age, their salary, and things of that sort. Once again, defined contribution, quite flexible. Defined benefit, you're defining that benefit, you're promising that benefit, so the amount you're putting away every year is expected and actually required by the IRS. So flexibility goes away a little bit on the defined benefit plan. There are exceptions to that, but not wanting to go into that today. Many of you have heard of SEP IRAs. The advantage of a SEP is you don't have to do any filings with the IRS. You don't have to have a third-party administrator. You can contribute up to 25% of your compensation with a cap of $57,000. The disadvantage, you have to give the same percent you give to yourself as the business owner to the employees, and the employer is the only one contributing to a SEP. There are strategies within the SEP that can be talked about, but that is an example of that. A simple IRA can be implemented with businesses up to 100 employees, and once again, no administrative costs are needed. This is a salary deferral program, similar to the 401k that many of you know about. The employees can put up to $13,500 of their own money into this, and you as the employer are required to match. You have kind of two choices. One is a 3% match, and that would be for only those who are participating, or a 2% match of everybody, whether they're participating or not. A simple IRA is kind of the baby step into the retirement plan, into the 401k world. Individual 401k are basically for an owner-spouse situation. So you don't have employees. You don't have non-family employees. It's just the owner and spouse. Individual 401k is a good way to go, because unlike the other options, the design of the 401k allows you to defer almost, $19,500. If you're over 50, you can defer $26,000. And then on top of that, you could do profit sharing of another $57,000. You do have to have an administrator review your plan. Think of an administrator as like how CPAs do your taxes. The administrator would make sure your retirement plan's in line. And the individual 401k administration is about $600 per year, whereas the traditional 401k, where you have employees and you have people on payroll, that gets a little more complex. And the complexity is the third-party administrator has to design the plan to fit your goals. I've had business owners say, I want as much money coming to me as possible, and then whatever's remaining to go to the employees. And the third-party administrator will design the profit sharing component to do just that. Where other business owners are, no, I'm okay if employees get a decent share. Let's just make sure the tax savings I'm getting for implementing this can be divvied up to the employees, for example. Once again, this alone is probably a 1 or 2 or 3 meeting situation. Recently, law changes created some flexibility in these type of plans. These are pooled plans. So if you could imagine dentists having a pooled employer plan, or multiple employers with pretty unrelated businesses can come together and form a pooled plan. These are a little unusual and not used often, but wanted to make sure, well, I'm sorry, they are used often, but most small business owners don't go to this immediately, but they exist out there where you can pool employers and have some continuity there. Ashley, any questions at this point that you're seeing through the texts?
Nope, I've got no questions. We're just all paying attention to you.
Or you're all asleep, which is fine. I'll just keep talking. All I see is my screen. I don't see your faces. So I'm just going to keep rolling. Many of you have heard of pensions. In fact, most of our parents have pensions or have friends whose parents have pensions. These are those beautiful monthly payments that people get during retirement. You can actually offer that to your employees through the defined benefit program that I described earlier, where you're sinking money into a fund that is meant to pay out a monthly stream of income to your employees when they retire. These plans, a lot of people's questions are, okay, if I'm paying for my employees' retirement money, yet I close down my business, how's that work? There are options with these programs where if you close them down or your business closes down, that the employee can take lump sums, or they can even create their own personal pension through an annuity type of product that could be offered to all employees upon closure, or could be offered individually. They could choose to take their lump sum and then create their own mini pension per se. The
So
sweet spot. Yeah, go for it.
I did get a question.
Okay.
The question is do annuities work in employer and employee settings?
Yes. The group annuity is most well known to be the funding vehicle for 401ks, and sometimes can be used for the defined benefit plan as well. So companies that have 401ks that are well known and nationally renowned that are actually group annuities are Transamerica, Principal, CUNA, many others that are out there. So that's the devil in the details on that side of it. And then as far as the individual annuity for the individual, those can be used and a decision for each individual. And I even have companies that have implemented annuities with excess cash that they know they don't want to touch for years. Then an annuity can be a safe spot for it. Any follow-up questions on that, Ashley, that you can see?
Nope, we're good.
Okay, interrupt me if it comes up. This is an example. I was going to say the sweet spot of a defined benefit plan would be a small number of employees and an owner that is older than the rest of the employees. That is a sweet spot. That's where these defined benefit plans really sing. You've probably heard these large companies in the 2000s, 2010s closing their pensions down. They were closing these down because they would have, thousands of employees with these promised benefits. And it financially became burdensome for them to handle it. That's why these have become a significant contributor to the small business owner who has a small number of employees, older owner, and good cash flows. So this is just an example of a husband and wife combo with a defined benefit plan. I won't get into too much detail, but it's comprised of a 401k, profit sharing plan, and a defined benefit plan. And by this eligible comp shows how much they're paying themselves through salary. By doing this, you're looking at, for a husband and wife, $336,000 contribution for one plan year. This is showing you kind of how robust these things can get. And most business owners see it as a tax deduction heaven, where they're able to find huge deductions on these plans. And all they're doing is taking the money from their business, putting it into an account that'll favor them later in life or help them later in life during retirement. And so this is a maximum type of situation. With these defined benefit plans, you could also go all the way down to a minimum. And so one other thing that some people don't realize is that you can actually do a fully insured defined benefit plan where, for example, we've had business owners who have these goals in common. One would be they need tax deductions. Second is they need to save money for retirement. Third, they have a life insurance need for themselves and for their family or for the business. The beneficiary could be family or business. But ultimately, this is the only way in the current tax code where you can deduct life insurance premiums. And what you do is you buy the life insurance out using the funds within your retirement plans. So you're able to get the insurance need you have, you're saving for retirement, and you're getting tax deductions kind of all bundled into one. And the fully insured program, to the question earlier, you can see uses fixed annuities. You have variable annuities, you have fixed annuities, and you have fixed indexed annuities. Those are kind of the most, those are the categories of annuities. And you do use an annuity in the fully insured defined benefit plan. And we have business owners that really like those. CalSavers. Many of you have talked about, or not many of you, sorry. Ashley, you had mentioned that there was not a concern, but a need of information of this required retirement plan that the state of California is implementing. And that's true, it's happening. And for those of you that don't have an employer-sponsored plan, the state of California is offering a plan called CalSavers. This CalSavers plan is fairly easy to get set up. There are no fees for you to have it. And this slide here kind of touches on CalSavers' pitch to you business owners on, what you need to know. And with the CalSavers, it's different than a 401k. It's not as robust. The investment options in a 401k are pretty broad, where CalSavers will be very narrow. You have a default savings rate with CalSavers, meaning all employees are defaulted to 5% of pay. They can go in and change it to lower or more, but it's automatically enrolled 5% of pay. The enrollment has to happen. They can back out once they're enrolled, but they might have a payroll or two where they have 5% of their pay going out. They might be upset, but they can opt out. And they can move their account. So if they left you as an employer, they can move around. Same behaviors are with the 401k and the simple IRAs and things like that. With CalSavers, as an employer, what you need to know is that if you have more than 100 employees, you have until this September 30th, which it could be delayed again, but you have until this September 30th to have a retirement plan in place. All the retirement plans I had mentioned up to this point satisfy the need. So if you implemented any of the others, you don't need to worry about this. But if you haven't, you need to look at what we've been talking about or the CalSavers option. June 30th of 2021, more than 50 employees have to have it implemented. And then the true deadline is June 30th of 2022. If you have 5 employees or more, you have to have something in place for your employees. From the government's perspective, they're excited because they feel like they have now a requirement for employees to save money for retirement. And if you can imagine, it takes pressure off of the federal and state retirement programs, which are struggling with their own issues. And so the government's excited about this because it gets employees to save some money. However, the burden is on you as the employers because the burden meaning that you're providing it to them and making it available to them. So If you already have a plan in place and these deadlines are looming, you actually need to go and certify your exemption. This is what the page looks like. You put your payroll tax number, your federal ID number, and your access code. And the access code, I don't have all the tech support details, but I'm just letting you know that this certification of your exemption needs to happen. To be totally honest, I'll probably need to do it for myself as well. I have not, because I'm kind of on the lower end of employees, but this is something that needs to be done. You need to certify your exemption. If you just go to Google and search it, you'll find it. It'll be there. If your employees do put away 5% through either the CASL Savers program or a program with us, and they make $30,000 a year, put away 5%, you can see that by their age of 67, they'll have almost 200 grand. Very different than the national averages of 60 grand at age 65. Your employees would have almost 200 grand by age 67. So that 5% can be significant for any employee, and especially one that's making 30,000 a year. Some would consider that to be, just depending on perspective, but some would consider that to be 5% of 30,000 a year. You're talking 1,500 a year being saved. But if they do it over, 27 years and it grows for you, you're looking at 200 grand. That's a pretty good number. Better than 60 for sure. The CASL Savers savings is a Roth IRA. It's a $5,000 default. They can opt out. They can choose target date funds. That means I'm 20 and I'm going to retire in 45 years. 45 years from now is the year 2065. So I would choose the 2065 fund because that's when I'm retiring. That's what target date funds are. They also have a few indexes they could choose from. So someone could go all into the S&P 500 or a core bond index. So there's some decent options there, but there is a cap, just like a Roth IRA of $6,000. I think it may have gone up this year. I don't have those numbers memorized, but there's a cap there compared to the cap on the simple of $13,500 and compared to the cap of the 401k, which is $19,500. So this CASL Savers program is different. It's kind of a miniature option of a retirement plan. All right, any questions? Because we're going to jump into other some other topics that I'll probably skim through pretty quickly so that if there are more questions at the end, we could do it. But any questions right now, Ashley?
I don't see any. We're just hanging on every word.
Great. I wish I had more stories to throw in here, and I do, but because my goal is really to pass on a lot of information in a short amount of time, and the examples and stories and even the visual side of things comes later, when you want to dig a little deeper on something. As a business owner, you have to be concerned about yourself and your executives or key employees. There are programs in the retirement world that we just went over. You have limitations. You have limitations on how much you could put away, how much each employee can put away, and you as the business owner and your highly compensated employees, they are limited too. So the qualified is what the other plans are called generally, have limitations that are controlled by the IRS. If you get into what we call non-qualified world of planning, executive and owner benefits, the limitations go out the door. In other words, you can use these plans for just one employee, or for just yourself as the owner, or for yourself and 3 employees. You could really cater it to what your needs might be. I won't get into the tax advantages of qualified plans versus non-qualified, but just know there's pros and cons to each. The big pro of these executive and owner benefits is that you don't have many limitations put on you at all by the IRS. So if you have an executive or a group of executives that you want to take care of, and remember, we talked about earlier that 1/3 of your employees, executives included, are looking for another job. why would they be doing that? I guess personalities, one discussion where maybe personalities aren't meshing, but if it is a compensation package or a benefit package, there's options out there where you can have them almost like handcuffed to you, where you're giving them a benefit that they cannot get for 5 years or 10 years. You can set it up how you want. But there is a lot of strategies when it comes to executive benefits. And the idea is you want to recruit people with them, you want to retain them, and reward them for their dedication to you. You can also use these to transition your business from a father to a son, or from a business owner to a new purchaser, or a mother to a daughter, whatever your setup is in your business. If you're trying to move on, there's ways to do it through these executive benefits that benefit you as the one leaving and benefits the newcomer who's taking on your business. A lot of great strategies inside of it. And some of these plans, as we go through them, you'll recognize them. There's advisors out there that just try to beautify these options I'm going through today and give them their own name. Like I've had clients come to me and say, hey, what does this mean? And it really just means executive benefits, but they're making it sound more sexy, I guess. And so what it is, it's an arrangement between you, the business owner, and your key executives and owners. And think of it as a blank dry erase board, like the one behind me. You can literally draw it out. With our help, we guide you through it on how, what your options are and the ways you can set it up. But it really comes down to a very catered option for you. So as we were saying before, 401ks, profit sharing plans, those are good and they play a role. The executive benefit program for retirees are important. You may not know it, but in the retirement plan world of maxing them out, there's limits. So those that are accustomed to a significant salary, the world of retirement plans won't be enough for them to continue living 70% of the lifestyle they're used to. So executive benefits help fill that gap for those that are making significantly more and have a lifestyle that's very different than maybe the rank and file. So that's something to keep in mind as you're attracting, retaining, and rewarding your executives. They're custom built, and it comes down to who's going to benefit. Is it benefiting the business or the executive? What's the benefit going to be? It's totally up to the owner. And what's the tax arbitrage play? And we work with your accountant directly on these things and make sure that you're set up properly for it. And so this is a chart that I'm not going to go into, but it just kind of shows, it's kind of a guide that if you want a plan where the business benefits, or it helps with the business cash flow or personal cash flow and taxes, we kind of have these grids that help us mix and match what a particular business owner might need. A selective executive retirement program, once again, it is discriminatory, meaning you're choosing who gets it and who doesn't. And it works out great for kind of your executive level. The employer funds it all. It is right in line with the golden handcuffs. And you can actually borrow money to fund these. Many people would say, why in the world would I get into debt to to fund an executive retirement program? It's not like traditional borrowing that you're used to, where you borrow money, pay an interest rate, and you have 30 years to pay it back. We have strategies where, believe it or not, the vehicle itself that you're borrowing from, its earnings make the payback of that borrowed money significantly more attractive. And that's once again an hour-long discussion. Deferred compensation, many of you have heard of that. Those are plans that we can implement for the executives. And we also have restricted property trusts. These are things that can be implemented as well. Salary continuation plans. These are plans that are if an executive or the owner becomes disabled, the salary continues to them, or the salary continues to the business. In other words, you have an executive that becomes disabled, you've lost all that manpower you were accustomed to, but the salary continuation plan, you can actually have the disability payments go to the corporation so that the corporation can continue to receive inflow even though that employee is gone and disabled, and that inflow can help sustain the company or can help you look for a new person to replace the disabled employee. Long-term care insurance, this is another item that many employers overlook, but you can actually implement it through the company. You can offer it to employees and the premiums are deductible. That's what a lot of people don't realize. The type of corporation impacts a lot of these plans, but we dig into that with each business owner as we go. And if you could imagine a loss of a key employee, a key person, it can make a huge impact on a business. You can have a reduction in your earnings. Lenders may view you as unstable now. Employee morale may go down. It could be somebody that everybody loved. So there's a lot of impact. And so key employee insurance is important to consider so that if someone passes away, whether it's the visionary, unique talent, the great salesperson, the owner, if someone passes away, there are funds coming back to the corporation to help, go through this time period. And finally, a buy-sell agreement. If you're in a partnership and one of the partners dies or becomes disabled, there should be a buy-sell agreement in place explaining how the family of the deceased is going to be paid off for their deceased spouse's or father's portion or mother's portion of the business. So the buy-sell agreement is significant and most often overlooked by partnerships, where a buy-sell agreement comes in. And for example, if a partner passes away, there's many ways to structure, but I'll give one example. The partner passes away, a death benefit of $2 million, which is equal to their ownership, comes to the corporation. Corporation takes that and pays off the beneficiaries of the partner. Otherwise, you're looking at a legal battle because the remaining surviving partner has just become a business partner with one of the family members of the deceased partner. And so by law, there's some things to figure out there. So that's kind of the final thing that we wanted to touch on. These things are complex, they really are, but that's our job. That's what we love to do. We like to know what a client wants, what they want to have accomplished, what they want to do in their life. And then it's our job to simplify it and make it optimize it to the best of our ability and integrate it into your life and into your cash flow and what your situation may be. From the largest business down to the smallest, these strategies apply. And so that's what we wanted to go over. And I don't know if there's any other questions. If there are, I have a few more minutes, I believe.
I would actually like to kind of touch back on your comments about buy-sell agreements and those types of arrangements, and kind of expand a little bit, because I think oftentimes business owners don't think about this when there's partners. Oftentimes on your workers' comp policies, you'll find that business owners exclude themselves from the workers' comp because they don't want to pay for workers' comp on themselves. And I get a lot of people say, well, it's because I have medical insurance, I'm fine. But they forget that workers' comp has that financial aspect, because you have your medical aspect and then you have the financial aspect in covering you. So, I oftentimes, I tell business owners that they've got somebody who's disabled, they're going to want to also look at disability insurance for their executives as well, outside of that. So, that's important as well. So
Right.
if you're excluding yourself or excluding your executives, please understand what you're giving up. It's not just about saving money on the workers' comp.
You got it. Yeah. Yeah. Disability and death are the two most impactful pieces of a business. I mean, you could argue the economy is also one, but we're talking about extreme situations of disability and death, and workers' comp can come in and help even the business owner, especially if there's multiple partners. Like, some business owners, like you said, feel like, oh, well, I'll be fine. I'll make it work. But these programs are there to protect you in those scenarios of worst case, and that's what they're there for.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not seeing any questions. Does anybody? You just need to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question, or you can type it in the chat box. I did get somebody say that this was very helpful. Thank you. The information presented was in an easy to understand format. And I agree, because a lot of times my head wants to explode. And when somebody's talking about stuff and it kind of goes over my head, this was very easy to digest for me. So thank you.
Good. Thank you. I'm glad.
So is there any questions? I know you had said that if, for anybody on here that's, taking time today to log in, that they would be able to get a copy of that book. Did you want them to reach out to you directly, or would you like them to reach out to me, or we can?
However you prefer, Ashley, we're good either way. What'll happen is we'll just need your address, and my staff will mail you a copy of my book, and that way you can kind of, I guess the advantage of the book is that you really get a peek into my brain, but also it's very story oriented. It's not like what we did today, which was numbers, facts, numbers. It doesn't get into any type of law, financial law. It's all about examples, and they're real life ones from my wife and I raising kids to the craziest client stories you can imagine are inside of that. So, and it's very short. It's like 100 pages, and the font is huge. So
yeah,
it's pretty quick.
Well,
and
that's the book that you had actually given to me the first time we met, and that is the one that I read, and it is really good. I enjoyed it tremendously, and I am getting people texting or chatting that says that they would like a copy. So what I'm going to do is that if everybody can just email me that they would like a copy and send me where you would like it sent to, I will collect all of that and get that over to Clinton and his staff to get you a copy of his book. And I am going to say that it is a very good book.
Well, thank you. And also, obviously, future presentations, I'm more than willing to go into detail if the crowd wants more information. But also, if anybody has any very unique individual situations and they just want to talk about it, let Ashley know, and then we'd be happy to set up another meeting like this, one-on-one or whatever it might be, and we can answer your questions and kind of give you an idea of what your scenario is, and we'd be happy to even look at what you have in place and give you feedback on if you're on the right track, things of that sort. So just let us know. We're here to help.
Awesome. Yeah. So we'll probably, I'm going to say yes, we'll have Clinton back and maybe speak specifically to a specific type of strategy, or, more specific in dialing in the topic. So for those of you on that have heard something that you think you would like to get more information on, like he said, you can reach out to me. We can schedule, appointment, a meeting. We can also have him come back and talk about that. I want to thank you, Clint, for taking the time and doing this. I really appreciate it. It means a lot that you did this. And I want to thank everybody for coming on. If you don't have my email address, it's Ashley, ASHLEY, @DelaneyINS.com. So if there's no other questions, going to go ahead and respect everybody's time and say thank you. Have a wonderful day. Please stay cool. It is extremely hot outside, but thank you all for coming out.
Yep. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.